Well, welcome to this afternoon.
Yeah.
Glad to see everybody's still awake, which is good. I have the pleasure of introducing the speaker this afternoon, Roisin Golding. And Roisin has been in practice for 36 years. She's the author of the foremost book on stems and branches, and she's written many articles and reviewed several books as an independent expert. So Roisin and I share one very important detail in that we're both from Northern Ireland. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say, Roisin. So I shall hand over to you.
Oh, okay, thank you. I feel like I don't really need a mic, and it is an intimate group. If you all want to, it's very nice actually. I like it. So anyway, I just want to say welcome everybody. I'm so glad you've all come along and are interested in this, and I also just want to say I think it's just such an inspired title for a conference, Meeting Points. It's really beautiful actually, you know, because acupuncture I think this is going to choke me, this mic actually, but anyway, not only is acupuncture full of meeting points, you know, between the meridians, within the meridians, with different, blood and chi and all the rest of it. But here we are all meeting up together, as they say, in person. And also it's a lot of different approaches in a way, or styles, if you like, of acupuncture that all come together here and all doing the same stuff, but from a slightly different perspective, or maybe not even different perspective, just like a different emphasis. And, 5 elements and TCM with it, we'll focus on yin and yang and the eight conditions and stems and branches and, all sorts of all the Japanese and whatever. And I just want to put it out there that actually I do feel that there is one uniting concept or theory that really unites all of those, that actually none of these are really separate, and that it's really, really good to understand all of them, and it's really good to understand what the base of all of these different theories are. And of course, at the very base of acupuncture, the very core of acupuncture is heaven, earth, man. It really, everything comes out of that. 5 elements come out of it. I've been forgetting to do my clicks. Well, here we go. 5 elements, yin and yang, and you'll find out that actually everything really stems from this. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So be here now, the grand meeting place, because that's the other thing. Being here now, as I said in some little introduction, I'm very good at time travel. I often live way back in the past, often. And at other times, I can fly into the future in a moment. I'm really quite good at it. And actually just staying here in the moment, it's like something very powerful happens. It's where the meetings take place between people. It's that very deep connection. You're just very present in the moment. Somebody else is very present, like, whoa, it's like something quite powerful happens. And the same with our treatments, to really root them in this time, not as a kind of philosophical thing, but actually really understanding where we are in time, with the balance of yin and yang, with the ebb and flow of the cycling of the 5 elements and the climates and all the rest of it. It's just, and patients really notice it. They just really notice that there's a difference. There's a really deep harmony that they feel with those treatments. So we're going to be looking at that. I'm going to talk about heaven, earth, man, where it all begins. We're going to talk about just where we are now in time, which sure all of you already know, but we'll just kind of like really look at it all in terms of seasons, time of day, moon, etc. And then how we treat in alignment with the present moment, and some other, needling techniques and other considerations, like, maybe timing of somebody's particular syndrome that has a time factor in there, and So that's what we're going to be doing. Quite au fait with this. So you're probably familiar with a lot of these quotes from Sue Wen. The energy of heaven moves down, the energy of earth moves upwards, and so that communication of energies take place in the middle. This is a meeting point, of course. This is where humanity resides. And when we talk about heaven, we're not talking. It very quickly, oftentimes, when I've heard talks about heaven, earth, man, heaven is always some kind of really spiritual place. You know, it's associated almost not quite the Christian heaven, but maybe some afterlife place or somewhere where one, you know, develops some really super spiritual whatever enlightenment. But actually, we're really, really talking about the heavens. You know, about man standing on this flat earth, looking up at the heavens and seeing those heavens turn, you know, day and night, bringing, first of all, you know, the night, the really dark in of the night, and then turning fully around and bringing the yang light of the day. And as it goes through that cycle through the year, bringing the rise and fall in the different seasons and the different elements. So we're going to look at that in some details and just see. One thing when you think of during the Han Dynasty, because the predominant philosophy during the Han Dynasty was really Huang Lao, Taoism, Huang Lao being John Major. I don't know if he coined that term, but he certainly used that in the astronomical chapters of Huananzi, Heaven, Earth, Man, or Heaven and Earth, whatever the book's called. I can't remember now. But so I can't remember what I was going to say about that. But anyway, when you think of man just standing there and during the Han Dynasty, and just this dark sky. I live in London. You just can't see the stars. You know, it's usually a plane flying in from Heathrow or something like that. You don't see the stars. You're lucky if you see Saturn, you see Jupiter. But during the Han Dynasty, you saw this incredible movement. So the Huang Lao Taoism is about Huang Di, who at that time, we all know him as the Earth Emperor, right? He's in the front of Huang Di Neijing, the Earth Emperor. But actually, Sima Chan refers to him as the main Lord in the heavens. He's actually the Lord of time. And I will read out a few quotes about Huang Di in the heavens, but it was he who brought about all these changes in the climate and in the seasons. And in fact, Huang Di, and Lao, so Huang Dao, Lao, so Lao is Lao Tzu from Taoism. So you've got this kind of heavenly understanding of astronomy combined with Taoist philosophy. And it was a kind of like applied science, a scientific view of Taoism, and seeing if they could apply that right across the board in medicine, in and mathematical formulas. They had Huang Di at the front of it because time is really, really important in explaining anything. And to understand time, one has to understand the interaction of heaven around the earth. And so the very first interaction of heaven around the earth is in fact time. It is that movement from light to dark, and then through the seasons. And Sima Chan wrote, and he lived 145 to 87 BC. He said that Huang Di actually, he wrote, I'll show you this on with the Big Dipper clock. When they looked up, oh good, excellent. I'm going to have to go over here to be able to move this. So during the Han Dynasty, although we essentially, I mean, the Big Dipper clock, this is from an astronomical site, a present time one, and it's got this Big Dipper clock. But the Chinese used the Dipper clock. It was like a yearly clock. So it didn't tell the time during the day, but it marked out each new day in each of the 24 solar periods, there are 15-day periods, because each single day it would start at a slightly different position. And I'll show you here, if I move this to like evening. I've got too many things in my hand. That's why it's so. Sorry, what? The Big Dip is above the North Pole. Yes. So, something around 8 o'clock, right, in the evening. And you can see there, this is marked actually it's marked in the equinox, the spring equinox. So the Big Dipper's pointing over east. And then when it gets to June, it's pointing to, one moment. June, it's pointing south. It's funny to notice the directions in space, because south is really, if you're looking, say that's due north, I'm not exactly sure where due north is, but say that's the North Celestial Pole there. If you drop a plumb line down, that's the most northern point on Earth, right? That's due north. And then where the Dipper is, when it's pointing this way, it's actually pointing back behind you towards the south. And then over this direction is east and this direction is west. So this is pointing due south in summer. And then in September, it's pointing due west. So this is where you've got these, where south belongs to the summer, and west belongs to autumn, and east belongs to spring. And then in wintertime, at the winter solstice, it's pointing due north. Because when I was at college, I remember people saying, oh, east belonged to spring, and it was something to do with dawn and the sun rising, and then, it sets in the west, and that's linked up with autumn. But actually, the sun never, ever goes anywhere near the north. It's not near the north in winter time. It doesn't happen like that. This is all from the Big Dipper. And so Huang Di, who was this Lord of the Heavens, can we get that back too? I probably did that a bit too quickly, but anyway, so Sima Chan says that he rode the plough, that this was like his chariot, and he rode the plough in order to divide yin and yang, to regulate the 4 seasons, to control the 4 cardinal points. That's the directions, maintain equilibrium between the 5 elements, and to take charge of the 24 solar periods in the calendar. In other words, Huang Di was really in charge of time and in charge of really controlling all these things, which are balancing all these things, which we try and do with acupuncture, right? We're trying to harmonize yin and yang, trying to harmonize the 5 elements, to take account of the 24 solar periods and the seasons and all of that stuff. So it's very interesting that it's Huang Di that's in front of the Neijing, and not, for instance, Randy. I'll show you. This is great. This is just doing a bit on the heavens, and then we'll get down to some practicals. But so let me just see this. So here's, of course, the plough. It has 7 stars there, but there was an extra one, Fu, which is helps regulate the yang valve. Because this was all where yin and yang came from. I mean, this was, I think you said this morning, Alex, it's funny, I've been to 2 lectures today and both mentioned time as a core component in their treatments. And it was really, really great to hear. And so this is the operating the yang valve. This is the yang valve. And this is Sha Ya, which is considered another point of the plough. So there are actually 9 in total with the plough. You'll see here, this is lovely. This is Chan Mang Dadi, which is on the Small Dipper. And Chan represents the heavens. Huang is Huangdi, the earth god, and Taidi is really, the supreme one. And this stars really are Polaris, which during the Han Dynasty wasn't really the pole star. The pole star during the Han, this because of precession. The pole star during the Han Dynasty was BAcC. And interestingly, BAcC, which was the closest to this North Celestial Pole here. North Celestial Pole is really just, how the Earth spins around the axis, not the magnetic pole, but actually the spinning axis of the pole, and it's just projected onto the heavens. So everything, because we're spinning, it looks like the heavens are spinning around us, but of course it's us spinning all the time. So BAcC was this little star here was the North Celestial Pole, the North Star at the time. And who resided there was Rendi. Rendi was the god of human health and illness. He was the human god that was actually in charge of health and illness. And it's really interesting that they had Huangdi and not Rendi to front the Neijing, Huangdi Neijing. It's not Rendi Neijing, who you would kind of assume would be more appropriate to be in the front of the book, but it wasn't. It was the Time Lord. It was the Lord who was actually in charge of the heavens. He wasn't the supreme God, but he was in charge of the time. And Sima Chan referred to him a couple of times as the solar god. So he led the other day. And there's also a meeting place here, Wudi Neizo, where Huangdi, in each of those 5 palaces, there's a central palace and then a palace for each of the 4 seasons. And there's a place there where the lords of the other 4 seasons meet up with Huangdi so that they harmonize all the seasons. So, and I really like this quote from the Tao Te Ching, because when it's talking about, the very beginning of, very beginning of life, darkly visible, it only seems as if it were there. I know not whose son it is. It images the forefather of God. And to me, this totally describes Chanmang Dadi, this very, very faint star in the heavens that's not at the center. It doesn't represent the center of the earth spinning, because that's a different function, but there's something behind that was like just something darkly visible. You just don't know quite what it is, but there's something really important there, that everything in the whole world with us on it, that it brings about all these changes that we're so dependent on to live. And also even the Tai Chi symbol, that the Tai Chi symbol that again you talked about this morning, Alex. But the circle of it is often referred to as the limited infinity. And to me, the limited infinity is a really, really good description of the heavens, the vastness of the heavens. I don't think there's anything else like that you could really describe as the limited infinity. And it's also called the utmost polarity, of course, of yin and yang, which again is the heavens, the yin turning to yang, turning to yin, turning to yang every single day. And also the ridge pole. The ridge pole is really the same as the polarity of yin and yang. It's that ridge pole in the heavens, because for a few hundred years, there were before the Han Dynasty, there were a couple of different astronomical schools of thought, and they were trying to figure out why the sun rose up. It was much higher in the sky in summer, and then was really quite low. So there was a couple of different ideas. One of them was that there was just this ridge pole in the middle that somehow went up and down again, like just raised the heavens up and down. One of the other main ones was that there were 4 pillars in the 4 corners of 4 earth pillars. They're actually large mountains that somehow rose up and down, mythical mountains that raised the heavens and raised them back down again. And there were also just like these different levels of spheres that expanded and contracted on each other. So a lot of this is to do with heaven, earth, man as the source of yin and yang and 5 elements. And Huang Di being so like written into every single page of Huang Di Nei Jing shows how important it is. Because it's funny that he's always just referred to as the Earth Emperor. This, because Anschold, when he's taught, he wrote a book before the translation of the Su Wen. He also wrote a book about his translation of Su Wen, and he explains there that Huang Di, his personal name was Xuan Yuan, and Xuan Yuan. Xuan Yuan is this star formation. It's all because it looks like a dragon, doesn't it? It looks like one of those Chinese dragons crashing onto the ecliptic. That line there is the ecliptic, and where the sun travels through the year. You know, this is there's around the beginning of summer, and it comes up to the summer solstice and then goes down. So when Xuan Yuan was first discovered about 2,000 years, maybe somewhere between 1,200 and 2,000 years BC, they at least established where the solstices and equinoxes were. That is where the sun was at the solstices and equinoxes. And Huang Di, or rather Xuan Yuan, which is his resting place, it's his home, and Xuan Yuan is his personal name. I mean, there's just so many clues that this is actually Huang Di. And Sima Chan says, absolutely, this is the home of Huang Di. And it was on the summer solstice. Then by the time of the Han Dynasty, when the Neijing was being written, the Xuan Yuan was then put into it moved over to the 3rd month of summer because of precession. So the sun was now there in the 3rd month of summer, which is why the 3rd month of summer is so associated with the earth element. So it's interesting. So that's just the winter equinox. Oh, so this is really cool. So we were talking about the plough, and just want to do a few little things before we get into some practicalities. And we're talking about, you know, like medicine and all sorts of other things, like really being based on an understanding of these concepts between heaven and earth. And in fact, you know, you can think of, you know, like what's in heaven. Fire is in heaven, and they think of metal as being in heaven, like all that, you know, precious metals that just sparkle. So the fire is the sun, and then the precious metals, you know, of the stars at night. And what's on earth is wood and water. You can see it really, really plainly. You know, you can't. There is metal down there, but actually, we can't really see them. And actually, metal and gold, etc., was actually formed in the heavens in reality. But anyway, for the Chinese, gold and silver, there was gold and moon, silver, gold and sun, silver, moon. And also the heavens, you know, they represent immortality. You know, the heavens last forever. Everything in this earth goes through a spring, adolescent, a maturity, and then autumn of our years, and then death. That is just the cycle of life. The heavens just are eternal; they never ever die. So, so the Chinese, when they, you know, they these nine needles. You all know about the 9 needles, right? In the Ling Shu. Well, it's in the Ling Shu, chapter 78, and in fact, they found a set of 9 needles. You know, sometime late last century, can't remember when, you know, and so they found a set of these. They were actually gold and silver needles, and this is the description in Ling Shu of the 9 needles. This Jin Shu is it's a history written about the Jin dynasty. It wasn't written till about 500 or 600 AD, but it's written about, gathered from information for roughly 260 to 420 or something AD. And again, this is the astronomical chapter. This was translated into English, thankfully, by Yu Peng Yoke, Hoping Yoke, and there's a copy of it in the British Library. Anyway, so these are the 7 stars of the plough, the Big Dipper that we were looking at, that Huang Di wrote, and the first star is actually the scoop. Like we look at the plough, and it's like the 2 points on the scoop, that shape, and you do 5 times of that, and it points to Polaris, right there, or pole star. But for the Chinese, it was the handle that pointed out the seasons. Nonetheless, the first star is just the one closest to the center, which is the star of the scoop. And there you see very, very clearly the first star in Jinshu is the heaven star. It signifies heaven. And the first needle of the 9 needles. These are very important. Of the 9 needles in Ling Shu is the heaven needle. It represents heaven, used for lungs and skin. The second star in the Jinshu of the Big Dipper is the earth, signifies earth, and the second needle signifies earth and is used for muscles and spleen. The third star, again, human, and the third needle, humans, and they both govern fire and used for blood vessels and meridians. Same with fourth star, signifies time, and for Ling Shu, the fourth needle deals with the 4 seasons, the climates of the 4 seasons and their effects on the body. And you just see that sound for the 5th star of the plough, and 5 sounds in the Ling Shu for damp and pus. Musical notes is the star and the 6 pitch pipes. It just goes all the way through. These are the stars, and this is the 7 stars. This is probably Fu, that star Fu, and this is probably Xiaoyao, that 9th star, which kind of, you could imagine, pointing to the 9 divisions of China as it goes through, and that's for joint restriction. So you can see how closely on heaven that they've really based a lot of this, their theory. They've applied this Huang Lao theory, right through. And I also think this is just an idea I have, but it just seems to me, because I know there's a lot of talk about, and there's been some evidence or whatever, that it's an empirical science. But to me, the theory of it came together very, very quickly, kind of based, quickly over a couple of 100 years, but actually a refinement of this Huang Lao philosophy. And to me, using gold and silver needles, because when you think of it, like, it's very odd to even think of using needles. There's no medicine in it. And they just poke people with needles for health. Like, why? Why would they even consider doing that? But actually, they used fire and metal for the heavenly, to resonate with heaven. Fire moxa was the first one, and then needles. And they used not just any old needle, but they used gold and silver, to resonate with the source of yang and the source, not source of yin, but because the source of it is really in the heavens. But yang, the golden sun and the silver moon, the absolute heavenly example of that. So, and you can certainly see it here, sort of like more like resonance tools, and needles just placed as resonant tools for these bigger movements. Oh, and just to show you, this is just one example of, and then we're going to get, I think we're almost, just one example of how seriously they took this, because there's other examples in the Neijing and Ling Shu and stuff. But this convergence of qi according to the branches, I think that's around chapter 76, or 72. So around the 70s anyway, of the Su Wen. And maybe if you're not stems and branches practitioners, you might not have seen this before. But essentially, I wish I'd have written this in English. I don't know why I did that. I think just because I mentioned it quite a few times before in the book. So this is just the clock. The branches are really the clock, it's the clock applied to the years and applied to the months, and it's got the seasons interacting with it, and I'll show you that in a minute. So this is just the clock. This is the gallbladder, liver, lung, colon, stomach, spleen, heart, small intestine, bladder, kidney, heart governor, and triple heater. Okay, and they've really, because they also had understood that the year was 365 and a quarter days, and they wanted to apply this, and they did apply it several times. So this is just one example of it. So when you've got the start of a year, start of a 60-year cycle, it starts with the gallbladder branch and the gallbladder stem. And so these are the year ones. These aren't the months or the hours that you're more familiar with the Chinese clock. So you've got the gallbladder, and it starts off, and say they say that they used a water clock, and the water went down 365 days. And then at the end of the year, it was like 365 and a quarter days. So the next branch, the next year, you'd have to have, we'd start at that, a quarter day drop of the clock, the water clock. And so then by the end of that year, it'd be 365 and a half days, right? And then the next year, the lung year, you'd then get 365 and three quarters. And then in the end, the leap year, 365 and 1 day. And then that would all start again with the bladder, the stomach, spleen, heart, and small intestine, etc. And so what they did was they actually said, okay, this is a convergence of qi. Everything starts in the same place. So you've actually got here the gallbladder, the stomach, and the bladder all starting in the same place. They're all starting the yang portion of the leg, right? You've got this one, which is all starting in the same place. This is the 3-leg yin. You've got the liver, the spleen, and the kidney, all starting in the same place. They connect it up with the calendar very specifically. You've got also the 3-arm yin, the lung, the heart governor, and the colon, the small intestine, and the triple heater, all starting in the same place, the 3-arm yang. So they took this seriously. They applied it, ad infinitum, if you like, this whole idea of time. So I thought I would ask what we know about what time is it? What time is it now? So, for instance, what season? Anybody? What element and what season are we in?
Late summer.
Late summer. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, about the beginning of the seasons in Chinese terms, and the midpoints, which is what it's important. But yeah, late summer, but actually really we're now into autumn properly. And then just for this time of day, what's the balance of yin and yang for this time of day? Is it a yang part, a yin part, or what's happening? Okay, so we're kind of like, certainly it's before dusk, but even the Chinese, for the branches, they didn't really think of exactly that. They kind of evened it out a bit. So say around 6 o'clock being dusk time. So we're coming up to that point where it's just before dusk. So you've still got some brightness here, but yin's really, really rising, right? And then again, because we're coming up to the equinox just in a couple of days. So again, we're actually probably at the same time of day as we are at time of year, if you know what I mean, in terms of balance of yin and yang. Because I just want to show that in regards to the seasons, it's always the midpoints that are really like the peak points. Like here, the beginning of summer is like the summer solstice, right? And the beginning of autumn is the autumn equinox. Same, I think, with the winter solstice. So, but in Chinese terms, that's not the case. It's the full points that are the midpoints of the seasons. And as far as, so there are 3 months, and 3 months, 3 branches really, that are 3.3 clock meridians, if you like, that make up a season. So you've got the winter solstice where really yang is at the absolute minimum and yin is at its height. But immediately you get that high point, yin starts to descend. Now, up until the spring equinox, you've got yin is definitely more prominent than yang because the nights basically are longer than the days, right? But at the same time, they say that the winter solstice is the beginning of yang. Winter solstice is beginning of yang. Same as midnight is the beginning of yang during the day. So you've got both yin and yang at your disposal there to work with. Once you hit this spring equinox, you've got yang rising, but the nights are already shorter than the days. So yin is really, really, you've got much less yin available. It's a very yang part of the year, right up until the summer solstice, when then you've got yang descending. And again, that's the start of yin. Yin starts to rise until the autumn equinox. The beginning of winter, well, I'll do the beginning of spring, because they're 3 months long and you've got the equinoxes and solstices as the midpoints. So you've actually got 6 weeks leading up to the beginning to the equinox. So 6 weeks before the equinox, which is around the 4th of February, is considered the beginning of spring in Chinese medicine. And again, 6 weeks before the summer solstice is, so you got 6 weeks before and 6 weeks after the equinox is spring. 6 weeks before the solstice, 6 weeks after is the summer. And again, the autumn actually begins in August, which is really strange for us but it's not a climate thing. We often think of the climate because we can always, stay indoors, put on warmer sweaters and whatnot. It's really the effect of the light that it was really to do with the height of the sun and the effect of light on us, which is actually really correlates with modern day's understanding about chronobiology. And then, and this is just a quick thing with the 6 divisions, because also, the whole thing with like some divisions are excess qi or a lot of qi and some have a lot of blood. This all links in with, because that the 6 divisions align up with various dates. Did you know that? It's actually part of the time cycle. So Shaoyun starts at the spring equinox, and because of course you've got they're 2 months long, the divisions. Actually, again, because it's a 365 and a quarter day cycle, in the Neijing it says each division lasts for 60.875 days. That is precise, and you multiply 60.875 leads to 365 and a quarter days. So Shaoyun starts at the spring equinox, and then after 2 months you get Shaoyang. The important thing with the placement of these are the host divisions. There are other placements that are to do with guest heaven and guest earth divisions. They're the same divisions, but the cycle is slightly different. But we don't have time to do that. These are the regular divisions through the year. And so all the qualities of divisions, the divisions have elements associated with them, as well as climates, so Shaoyan and Shaoyang are fire divisions. Yangming is a metal division. Taiyang, of course, is water, and Shuiyin is wood. Taiyin is earth. So the important placement is that Shaoyang, again, is balanced on it's a month before and a month after the summer solstice, and Taiyang is a month before and a month after the winter solstice. So Shaoyin, Shaoyang, and Taiyin are all in the part of the year. They go from spring equinox to autumn equinox, where there's more light during the day. The days are much longer than the night. So they've got more qi. All of those, very easy to remember. You don't have to think. And then Yangming starts at the autumn equinox. You go Yangming, Taiyang, then Shuiyin. Shuiyin finishes. It starts at the 20th of January, finishes at the spring equinox. And because the nights between the autumn equinox and spring equinox, the nights are much longer than the days. So yin is in abundance. So that reflects that these are full of blood, you know. So all of this time stuff just goes, it's just woven through everything. There is another one where you just have, you know, they alternate between yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, you know, chi blood, but that's not really used. This is the one that's really used much more when it more fits in with the calendar, you know, where they're, and I mean, you use it like, I mean, you can, you know, people bloodlet and tai yang, you know, you wouldn't bloodlet and sha yin, do you know what I mean? And, you know, in Yang Ming, well, of course, Yang Ming has got this gathering function of both qi and blood, but really it's in that blood, that yin portion of the calendar. So, what's that? Yeah, what's the element of the time of day? Anybody know? Just this particular time? Hmm? It's kind of
from a kind of a solar cycle thing I was talking about would be really a metal right now.
It's metal. Yeah. It's metal. Correct. It's metal. So again, in Ling Shu chapter 44, when one day is divided into 4 seasons, early in the morning corresponds to spring. Noon corresponds to summer, sunset corresponds to autumn, and midnight corresponds to winter. But of course, just like our seasons, they also span, you know, 3 different branches, 3 different clock times. I'm saying branches, but they're essentially the clock times are the same thing. And in fact, this is what, where you get, who knows anything about the branches? Okay, so it's essentially the branches is the clock, as I say, applied to these different things. And then you've got this inner energy of the branch, and it's the association of the time of the clock, you know, the meridian at that particular time, and then that inner energy of the season of it. So which gives it this kind of, it gives you a deeper understanding of the energies that go into that and how to manipulate and work with that energy and meridian. Yeah, I couldn't find a good red. I don't know why. You know, so noon, that's fire, and dawn is, and of course it's either side of dawn, you know, starts off with the lung meridian, which is wood, you know, and lungs the first wood meridian, and then it's the colon, which straddles, you know, between 5 and 7. Right, and then it's the earth meridian, because there's 3 branches, but the last branch of the season is an earth branch, which both gathers all the energy from that and harmonizes into the next season, is the way it works. We've already done that, I think, haven't we? Have we? What time is it on the clock? The Chinese clock. It should be kidney. This is one thing with the clock, is that you have to allow for British summertime. British summertime isn't solar time. The natural time is winter time. You know, so basically after that is it the last Sunday in October, first Sunday in October, and the clocks go back. But winter time is the normal solar time. That is where the sun is highest in the sky at midday and lowest ebb at midnight, and dawn and dusk are always equal on either side of that. That is because we're just moving in a big circle, we're just spinning around. Whereas summertime, you've got a shortened period between dusk and midnight, and then a longer period between, just because the clocks, you know, it's off kilter. So it should be kidney. If it wasn't summertime, still it would be kidney time, but it's still bladder. So metal, early metal. Oh yeah, I've already said that. Oh yeah, 3. So, and the last branch of the season is an earth branch, and here it just is. These are the branches, and they're just. I'm putting these up because it's actually really useful. When you're thinking of balancing energy and what energy is available. You're familiar with all this, right? This is just, the gallbladder, that's the clock. Where's the time? That's the time of it. These are the inner energies, like was said in the Lingshu, when days divided into seasons, that these are the seasons of the day, or the seasons of the month, or the seasons of the year, because it also goes into these 60-year cycles between the stems and branches. Okay.
So where does the organ sequence come from now?
The organ sequence. I've written about that, and I think I've written about that in my book. And
It's a big question, don't worry.
It is a really big question, and I should be able to answer it really quickly, but my mind's not really there.
They are in the three great circuits, and the paired inner and outer divisions. So there is a lot of symmetry to it, I guess. But I guess the order of those.
No, but there's a whole other thing to it as well, and I think my mind's gone a bit blank on it. I've just gone a bit blank because I'm thinking about other stuff. In my I've got it somewhere there on the branches chapter. I know. I know. I should read about it again. But yeah, I think I've done something on that cycle, and I'll have to look at it later. But there's a very logical reason that I worked out, and I've gone blank on it. So, huh? No, the inner energies are all very, very logical. That's totally logical. That's just the seasons. Alex was asking about why those particular meridians at that particular time, and I just it's just honestly gone. Yeah, sorry. I'll yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, that'll really help. So, anyway.
They talk about, it starts at the heart, and the heart is the supreme controller, and then the small intestine was like prime minister. So it was like in importance of who they were for the government.
Well, yeah, I'm not really. To me, I think it's much more to do with because what circulates in relation to the clock is really yin qi in the meridians. So it's nutrition qi in the meridians. It's not everything that circulates according to this. Like it's really the yin that circulates. So it's a lot to do with just the production of energy.
And the daylight cycle as well, way too.
Yeah, because where Yuan Qi starts at the lungs, because this is really the first month. You've got the first month starts at the lung energy, which is February. The day starts with the lung energy, so it's actually that where the triple heater, from Ren 5 and stuff, just brings that Yuan Qi and resonates up with lung 9, and then starts that whole flow. And then it's to do a lot with, lung, large intestine. I can't remember it all. I can't remember. I've gone blank on it. I kind of expected that was going to happen somewhere in this talk, but anyway, because there's a lot of information. But I don't always remember all of it. But okay, so gone past that. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because we're going to discuss that later when we're discussing what all we can use. Because I also want to say about the branches, I don't think I'm using it later on, but it's like the branches, there's a, you know, this whole point, like where yang really begins at the winter solstice and yin really begins at the summer solstice. So that the peak points are always really important because they kind of give way to the next thing. And so actually, maybe it's a bit further on. If I got a slide for it, you can just see. No, I don't think I have got a slide for it. Might come up later on. I think it does. Maybe I'm going to be talking about it later. I know what. Oops. Points. If I'm going to talk about it later on, I'll not do it right now. I'm going to be talking about it later on, so that's all right. Okay, so it was just a connection with how the branches bring together this flow of yin to yang, and then it actually turns into the Sheng cycle of the 5 elements, because where you've got like the midpoint of winter or midnight is the gallbladder, and then the opposite of that, which is branch 7, is the heart. And you can see this flow from the wood meridian, but the yang wood into the heart. And you can actually use that kind of logic and treatment. So, I mean, use it anyway, probably with your 5-element acupuncture, but actually understanding it time-wise and at different times, where if something's really low, you can actually use that meridian to really support the opposite. So it's where that meets up. Again, when liver is dominant, of course, never in a million years would I be treating at that time, but could be treating it that month, you know, that's for sure in January. And so it's where the small intestine is at its lowest ebb. And again, you see the liver, the wood from the liver supporting, feeding into the small intestine. Again, the lung with the bladder, the large intestine with the kidney, the stomach. The stomach and the heart governor are kind of like a bit different, but actually these are reciprocal. So the heart and gallbladder can kind of support each other. You know, you can use those points where they help strengthen the meridian that's coming up behind it, you know, especially when you get to the peak of that energy. And then the meridian that's at its lowest ebb, you can actually help support it being the opposite. And you can see that with the stomach and heart governor. Of course, the heart governor supports the stomach, but the stomach helping with to nourish blood and feed into all of that. And also the triple heater in the spleen, obviously, you know, where the spleen, when it's at its height, is opposite the triple heater, but triple heater and spleen really, really support each other with that yuan qi, and with the triple heater being the fire under all that transformation. I haven't kept an eye on time. I hope it's all right. Yeah, still got a bit of time left. So,
So at sort of 10 a.m., are you more likely to use spleen points or triple heater points?
Well, I take an awful lot of stuff into consideration. So, but if I was using on that, I would very likely be using spleen points. But if somebody was really spleen deficient, I would certainly strengthen up their triple heater as well, to build up that yuan qi, maybe with like you know, I like using I was going to do this later, but the Harari points of the meridians, you know, like so spleen, or either the Harari points or the branch inner energy points. So you've got spleen fire, because it's the first month of the fire season, of the summer season, or it's just before midday. So it's got fire inner energy, and then use, it's the water point of the triple heater, because it's the first month of the winter season, or just before the midnight, the gallbladder meridian. Or I would just use like spleen fire, maybe the yuan, so like triple heater 4, you know, they're really just, you know, I use combinations like that quite a bit. Yeah. Does anybody ever use the moon or think of the moon when they're treating? I don't think a lot of people do.
I'm trying to start.
Yeah.
I'm trying to start. Not really.
That is great. We're going to look into that. Anybody know what phase of the moon we're in? Pardon? We're it's a waning moon. I think it's going to be a new moon around like the 25th of September. And you can actually tell what phase the moon's in by just looking at it, because, you know, yin is on the right and yang is on the left. So when the moon is crescent on the right, it's a waxing moon. The yin is rising. And I mean, it is. And so last night when I was coming across and I saw the moon there, and it was a good half circle, you know, because it's like next week, but it was the new moon, but it was on the left. The half circle was on the left. So it is a waning moon, because yang's more on the left and yin's diminished, you know, so the moon's waning. So and there's a wee picture of it. You know, if we're in the earth and there's the new moon, we just see that nothing. And as soon as it starts coming away from there, we see the waxing moon on the right hand side, then the full moon, and then it wanes, and you see it on the left. Quite nice to see, you know, notice. So again, Sue Wen, the physician should await the right moments regarding the movements of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the energy of the 4 seasons and the 8 seasonal dates. And as soon as the right moment arrives relative to the stable state of energy, acupuncture treatment should begin. So I kind of, you know, we've already like looking at treating in alignment with time, sun, which is to do with the time of day, the moon, the phases of the moon. We're gonna go and look into the treatments. And the stars is really to do with, the stars were really important to notice what season we were in. It's not to do with astronomy, or astrology, I should say. It's really just the seasons, the elements, as well as the balance of yin and yang, you know. And you see that with Beidou, but you see it also, because you can't really see where the sun is amongst the stars. You can only see what comes before the sun rises, and then after the sun sets. So you can see the stars on either side, but once the sun's up, you can't see any stars. So, so consider needle technique, sedation, and tonification in tune with the moon. So I think, let me just see what, I think I'm going to go into this later. So, moon. Oh yeah, I'll just go through these and then we'll go through each of them in turn. Depth of needling and tune with the season. You know, where the element points in use, and then the time component of patient syndrome. You know, there's some syndromes that are very, you know, what do you call those? I was thinking of, some people call them suicide headaches, terrible name, but what do you call those headaches that have got a very strong time component? They come at the same month every year or the same time of day every year, and then they disappear again. What do you call those? They're like the worst headaches, much, much worse than migraines. I think I've got like cluster headaches. Those are shocking headaches, and they're very time dependent. Things like insomnia, things like hay fever. I mean, you know, some people's hay fever starts in February, and you think, well, that's a lung month, and the opposite of that is like bladder, right? So you've got this, you know, treating the lung and treating maybe the bladder meridian, you know, like bladder 2 and some other points in that. Sometimes bladder 57 or 58. 57 or 58, All of those, and even like bladder 62 and 63 can actually really, really help release the exterior. There's a lot of points in the bladder meridian, and with the lung, if it's in the, lung month. But then sometimes, like some people, quite a few people, they get hay fever just starts within a day or 2 days of the spring equinox. And I always use Shaoyin, the division Shaoyin, because it starts on the equinox and it makes a huge difference. All that itchy eyes, all that irritation, all that stuff just really calms down. And I balance it up because when you're talking about these divisions at certain sequences and they're on the body, they're kind of like diagonally opposites. Like you've got Tai Yin and Tai Yang. Like when one's dominant, it's like the earth turning around, and when one's really dominant, the other's below the horizon, kind of thing. And with Shaoyin, the opposite is Yang Ming, with the host divisions, and the host divisions are anyway. Yeah, and so they're on opposite sides, and using Yang Ming, just like 1 or 2 points from Yang Ming's stomach and colon, and then one, like a point from the heart and point from the kidney, really makes a huge difference. And the results are really, really good using that, taking consideration of time. But anyway, I was going to talk about that later a little bit. Excess and deficiency are in accord with the sequential order of heaven, and sedation and tonification are to be applied in accord with the phases of the moon. I'm starting to realize that not everybody really thinks about this stuff. I was really encouraged because today you were talking so much about time, and then I went to one lecture on insomnia, and it was great because he was talking about time. He was talking about BAcC. Not so much a little bit about BAcC, but about yin and yang chai mai, and talking about, when you use bladder 62 in the morning because it's sending energy upwards, it's all fine. But if you tonify that later on, like, in the evening, it's going to make their insomnia, they won't be able to sleep that night. And you've really got to work with this flow of yin and yang to do the insomnia treatments. So it really works. And by the way, even in Western medicine, they're starting to do that. They're starting to, in cancer treatment, many centers are starting, there's a lot of research on it, that chemotherapy, if it's given at particular times of day, you can use a lot less of that very toxic medicine, a lot less drastic side effects on the body, and a much better result, and all sorts of other things like cortisone and all sorts of other things. So, no, go back. So, treating a tonification and sedation, you're kind of, you can, if you're happy with this, you could actually practice this on it, just like pretend you're doing a needle, and I'll tell you what it is. So with the moon treatments, and of course I use this a lot with menstrual problems, with very, very obvious things, and it's quite incredible. You can get, if somebody's having trouble with fertility, if they're having trouble with their menstrual cycle, it's like, because I know the idea is, you build up their blood and qi, and then maybe you disperse any stagnation when they're about to have their period and that, right? And it's done according to their cycle. But I actually really like doing it according to the moon cycles, because if it's out of whack and it's not working, then using a bigger plan. And it actually, because I remember when I thought, I'm going to try this out and see if this really works. And I did this one woman. She was, I've done it a lot since, but this woman, and she came to me because she'd been in the middle of IVF treatment. Her periods wouldn't start. None of her treatment worked. Periods wouldn't start anyway. They were so irregular. And so I started doing these moon treatments. And it's just one every fortnight, in the waxing phase and in the waning phase. So you gather all the blood and qi, and then you disperse, because dispersing isn't getting rid of energy. It's just moving it. It's just making sure it moves okay. And So her period came, but it was like they started they were 6 weeks, which was a lot better than what it was. But it was always on a moon. It was either on a new moon or a full moon, right? Every 6 weeks. And then the third one, she came and she had to go back to the IVF for a scan, and she was pregnant. And she was so shocked because she just never, ever believed that she could get pregnant. And very sadly, that pregnancy didn't last more than maybe 10 weeks. So we did it again. She wanted to just get ready for the next IVF. She just didn't believe in it. So I just continued with the moon treatments. And then they started every month on, I think, the new moon. And that pregnancy carried to term, and she had her baby on, I think, the full moon. That was it. It was great. It was really good. But she could hardly believe it. So yes, so this idea where when things become full and they're just about to turn into the opposite, and this is the way I do it. This is my understanding of it, and it works for me. So in the Neijing, it talks about so you tonify. You tonify when on the in breath, right? But I forget the exact quote again. It's in my book. But anyway, you tonify on the in breath. But what you do is you actually wait until they fully breathed out. Right. And I never anymore tell people breathe in, breathe out when I'm doing the needles. I just wait for them to breathe naturally. So you wait, you watch them, and you just watch their tummy and, but you just watch them breathing in and out. And as soon as they've breathed out, you put the needle in and you wait another until, because then they're going to immediately start to breathe in. And then they breathe out again, and then you turn it clockwise. And that's the tonification. And then when you're taking the needle out, again, you're waiting for them. So it's all natural with their breath. So it's a little bit slower putting the needles in and out. But it's nice, actually. And then you just wait for them to take a full breath in. And then you slowly take the needle out. You don't whack it out. You just slowly, so it's all in harmony with their out breath. So you put it in when they're in breath, so in between the out breath and in breath, put it in, and the breath just, they start to breathe in, or they've started to breathe in, and then wait for that breath and then turn it, and then wait again, after. I actually keep them in for about 20 minutes and then take it out when they're breathing out, but really, really slowly. And then it's the opposite for sedation, so that you put the needle in when they're about to breathe out. So they take a full breath in, put the needle in, and then wait for the out breath, and then wait for another in breath. And when it's full, then you turn it anti-clockwise. And then when you're taking it out, you take it out slowly. You take it out, not slowly, quickly, when they're breathing in. And that actually helps to move the energy on. It's a dispersal technique. And that's what I do. And so it's when you're talking about treating with the moon, it's like it's not a lip service treat. You actually have to start doing that tonification, sedation in alignment with the moon. You could actually try that on each other, even just now for a minute, and see. Just like pretend you're going to do a point on the hand or something, and just wait for somebody's breath. And just, as if you don't even need to touch, you maybe just do it like that. But if you do it on each other, it's quite good. Because it's slow, it's slower than you'd usually do it, I think. I never tell people to breathe in and breathe out anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huh? 15 minutes? Oh, okay. Okay. So I think actually I've got to move on because there's a few things to do and I spent some time. Is that all right if I move on? And yeah, that's different, isn't it? Doing it that way, it's quite slow, isn't it? But it's a nice, and it really just brings you into the moment as well. It's just a nice way of being with the person, and they just kind of feel that harmony with it as well. It's nice.
Do you particularly think about the moon when you're working with blood? Then is that kind of
When I'm working with blood and also it's very important to think of, so everything like we were actually taught never to needle on the top of the head when it's a full moon, but it also says in the I Ching to never or to be very careful when you're treating on a new moon. And if you, because it's very easy to just take 1 day, extra day off a month when it's a new moon. But however, if you work in a clinic, that's more awkward to do. So you can actually just use meridians like we use like Roisin, which is blood and just helps regulate the blood, or Chong Mai, which again just gathers the blood and gathers everything up. Or use meridians that aren't really dynamic and moving about because you've got the sun and yin and yang there together, and it's a bit, with the moon's blocked out and it's a bit of a conflict there, so you don't want to be too disturbing on it. Okay, and again for guys, for instance, during the full moon, the blood and energy will become, not guys, what am I talking about, will become solid and muscles will become hardened. When the moon is the last quarter, muscles will be decreased and everything's going to be much more deficient. Therefore, blood and chi should be regulated according to the time of heaven. So it's not just menstrual cycles, also muscular problems. People that do all these like marathons and stuff never do it on a new moon. Things like that. It actually really makes a difference. And sometimes mood disorders and all that, can be related either with the yin and yang or the moon. And yes, so. And this also because energy is rising with the waxing moon and then kind of going down. So using things like, usually I would use points like spleen 6 more in the waning moon, and use things like yin and yang chai mai, besides being effective for sleep, also because they're heaven and earthly energies, because they've got the same energy flow as heaven energies. Yin and yang, like yang ascends and yin descends, but actually heaven energy descends and yin ascends, which, to create man in the middle. So it's like, although a lot of our concepts about yang come from heaven, it's vast, it's ethereal, it's constantly moving, but the big difference is in this direction of energy. So yin and yang chai mai are considered heavenly meridians, this meeting of yin and yang, because yang is coming, yang chai pulls the energy down, yin chai pulls up. So I also use those quite a bit with fertility treatments and sending the yin energy up, stimulating the ovaries with, yin chai, kidney, which is also a point on yin chai, affects the ovaries and all that. But using that in the waxing moon, and then things like spleen 6 in the waning moon. Just as I say, one treatment every 2 weeks. Okay, so all sorts of stuff and then yang chai to pull energy down, for like things like blood pressure and stuff like that. That's more of a chi problem, obviously, than a blood problem. So, and this is levels of chi in the seasons. So in spring, the chi is very, very much on the surface. It's funny, the dermis is slightly below the epidermis, and it's funny, you'd kind of think it was like more on the surface there, but nonetheless, chi is considered very, very superficial in summer. Then autumn, it goes into the muscles and into the foot, and then winter, the chi is in the bones and the sang organs. So actually needling along with that, in the needling, I can't remember where it says it. Probably again got it in there somewhere, and because I always tell where these quotes come from, but so in springtime, wintertime, so the energy is really, really deep. So when you're treating in wintertime, the needling goes deep. And when I'm talking about deep, I'm not talking about really, really deep. I don't do really, really deep needling, but I certainly put in a little bit more than I would usually do it. Just put it in slowly, get the chi. And I don't look for a lot of dachi stuff. I look for that just, people just instant chill out. To me, that's a lot of arrival of chi. So, so the wintertime straightforward. When it's spring, just after winter, you first of all put the needle in slightly deep to reach that deeper energy, and then pull it slightly up towards the surface. A little bit up again, so deeper and then slightly up. So you got the moon to think of, and then you got the levels of where the chi is at. So needling is lighter in springtime. Summertime, it's even more superficial than that. Chi is very, very on the surface in summertime, very up at a high level. So superficial needling does plenty. And I suppose I'm talking about a few fan, or whatever, in needling in the summer, a couple of fan. So, and then, so summer, it is just, you don't have to go down deep because it's already been spring. It's brought the energy up a bit, and then you can just do the summer needling. When it's autumn, then the energy is starting to go really deeper again, but it's been really up at the surface. So you start lightly, and then just bring it down a little bit into the deeper portion of the body. Again, not really, really deep, but be mindful that it's slightly deeper. So start off superficial and then deep, and then winter is deep. So also, well, that's just to do with the energy carried by the different meridians. And it's funny about the tendinomuscular meridians, but I don't, because I've only got 10 minutes left. So tendinomuscular meridians also have got specific flows and they've got particular months where they're more prone, like, if it's for the, all of the yang, leg, yang meridians and all of that, they've got particular seasons that they're associated with. And so there's a, bladder, February rheumatism and an April rheumatism, and they're all linked with the particular flow of Wei Qi and the TMMs in those months. So time runs through everything. And also, of course, that Wei Qi has got its own particular flow, that it's 25 times in the 3 yang divisions during the day, and then 25 times at nighttime from dusk until dawn. It goes in via kidney 6 from the ankle in through the yin organs via the co-cycle, right? So, and this is like actually in that insomnia, when he was talking about this, where the chi rises up here, that's to do with the Wei Qi. The Wei Qi comes up back into the eyes at bladder 1. And it's said to flow through, like when you're doing the divisions with the Wei Qi, it flows through the bladder and small intestine together, like simultaneously, then goes into Yang Ming and then Tai Yang, and it cycles through that 25 times in daytime. And then in the evening, it's meant to then, gathers down at the feet and then goes in via kidney 6. As a side of the yin organ, starting with the kidneys, goes kidney, heart, lung, liver, spleen, and it does cycles through that 25 times at night time. So, and this is why the yin and yang chai mai are used for sleep and wake cycles, because it's this Wei Qi that opens up and brings the eyes open. I think that's in like the Ling Shu, not 44, I can't. But anyway, and And then when it doesn't go in at nighttime, and it needs to be rooted down at night. So at nighttime, during the daytime, it's protecting us from all the stuff that our bodies have to deal with. At nighttime, it's clearing out all the stuff in the organs. Dreams are to do with the Wei Qi, clearing out all the stuff during the day from the emotions of the organs during the nighttime. So you get all of these different, dreams and sorting out. It's a very, very active time. So that's why yin and yang chai, because of course bladder 1 is where yin and yang chai mai meet. And actually bladder 10 is also where yin and yang chai mai go inside into the brain at bladder 10 as well. So that's another point that balances those out. But yeah, so everything's got a time component. Oh, this is just, that thing. Did we already talk about that? Yeah, that, we already did that, didn't we? Liver to small intestine. This is just the inner energy of the branches, which is basically the clock. And that's the clock, and how you can kind of balance those. So you have a lot of things to think about. Is it more yin or yang? If somebody's really yang deficient and it's more, because you can't just make people come at a certain time. People come when they can come, right? So you've got to adapt your treatment. Sometimes people are really yang deficient, but they're coming in the evening. So, you've got a lot of stuff to use. You've got the bladder meridian, or, if it's, up until 5 o'clock, you've got the kidney meridian, you've got heart governing, you've got a lot of stuff to work with. You've got, if it's a yang time of day, you've got a lot of yang meridians, like strengthening water through the production of energy. We're using colon and small intestine, those treatments that a triple heater to really, really boost yin fluids, using yang energy. And of course, as you kept pointing out this morning, where the spleen and the stomach, the earth is really glossing. The earth is damp. We have to remember that water isn't fluid. Water is cold. Water is freezing cold and hard and deep. Whereas the earth element is really fluid and damp. Yeah. Although you do get the pure fluids, the yin-yang and, the fluids for the eyes and the senses, as well as the joint cavities and all that. That is from the kidney through the production of energy cycle. And don't forget about the pulses. What might seem like a wiry pulse, remember, if it's springtime, that's actually normal. And it's slightly wiry because it's just come out of this stagnant, okay. I could either just go through this or take questions, but shall I just run through this very quickly? So because we've just come out of, we've come out of winter, if it's spring. So there's just like this big boost of energy that's coming up with this wood energy. And so that it's prone to a little bit of stagnation. So you get this slightly wiry quality to it. Some, of course, it should be curved. It's just really abundant, really flowing, really. It's in the Neijing, when it talks about the fire elements, like where everything becomes beautiful, everything just matures and is just overflowing with things. Late summer, the pulse of the stomach should be small, soft, and weak, which is a bit odd why it should be small, soft, and weak. But because late summer, it's the earth element with late summer in July. Because again, June is the peak season. You get once you get to about the 7th of July, it's then late. So it's the 3rd month of summer, and with the earth element. I think it's just kind of, it's not fighting anything. It's just like, it's fine. The autumn, the pulse should be fine, like a hair, or slightly floating. And that's the nature of the lung on the surface still, and of course, winter should be deep and hard like a stone. Is there, an illness with obvious time cycles. We've gone over the hay fever and allergies a little bit. There are other ones where it might be more Sha Yang, might be more stomach if it's like in May, or, you know, you just look at the months, you know, if it's more, March could be colon as well, rather than the lung and bladder one that we discussed earlier, you know, so menstrual problems with the moon cycle. High blood pressure can sometimes have time, you know, components, but when people come in with various illnesses, really, you know, and they just say, so really look at the time they're waking up, or look at the time something arrives. Even digestive problems, sometimes it's always at of course, sad disease is another very obvious one, but there are lots of others where there's very obvious time cycles. And I think that's it. Mood disorders, check for moon, sun, day and night effects, you know, and if they're just really imbalanced with their day and night. Oh, and this, an exercise to take home. This is one of the only lectures we have homework. So just ask yourself, what time is it, you know, in terms of element, the moon, yin, yang. Start to look at the moon and gauge whether it's waxing or waning. Once a week, look at a patient's case at random and see if they were affected by moon cycles. Would you use yin or yang to treat them? What might be the best way of approaching that? How could you manage that? Would you tonify or sedate? And what elements could have been used? You know, just a little review. Oh, and there's charts. I didn't even get showing you these charts, and I don't know if I can really click on them. You can just see. Moon Dance Publishers. That's where you get my. It's what?
We need to buy your book. That's
But charts. So what good it clicks on. Oh yes, when you go on that site, it's hard to get these charts because it's under further reading. I don't know why. So hold on a second. Charts, and then that's it. Heavenly stems and earthly branches, and so you can just that's not. Oh, I thought that was going on there. You didn't? Did you not see any of those things? Oh, so that's just a stems and branch chart. But and two. So I could only do a screenshot from my computer. I didn't know how to. Anyway, so yeah. So those are just the branches of the inner energies. These are the guest heaven, guest earth energies, which there's no way we can talk about today. It's complicated, and it's not really. Once you get to understand time at the core of it, it actually all becomes really simple. Honest to goodness, it does. It really does. So, okay. Any questions?
Fascinating.
Oh, good. Good.
Mind-blowing.
Good. So,
Thank you very much.
welcome. Thank you.